Bluegrass Jamalong is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. This episode is also brought to you by Peghead Nation, the home of roots music instruction. If you want to improve your playing, join me and thousands of other pickers getting better every day at pegheadnation.com. Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jamalong, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back to Bluegrass Jamalong. I don't have an interview episode for you this week because for various reasons I didn't manage to record one last week, and I only really work a week in advance with this stuff. I don't get weeks and weeks of stuff banked up because I don't have the time. But I didn't want to leave a gap, and just randomly something jumped out of a book I was reading yesterday, so I thought I would do a food for thought episode because I haven't done one of these for quite a while now, and I quite like them. They're just short episodes with one idea in that's, you know, something that's cropped up that I think is an interesting way of looking at ourselves as musicians or music or whatever. And so we're going to do one of those today. And I was reading a strategy book about business yesterday for my day job. Nothing to do with music, nothing to do with the podcast. But ideas just sort of jump across, and this one sort of did. And it comes from the world of music in the first place. And it was talking about how businesses kind of find their strategy not by deciding what they want to be and becoming it, but by working out what they are already and making the most of it. And the example used to explain this was a quote from Dolly Parton, and I don't know exactly where it came from originally, but I've seen it in lots of places across the internet, and so it's a Dolly thing. I'm not sure which interview or wherever it came from, but what she said was this: find out who you are and do it on purpose. And I love that because I think so many of us spend our time as musicians trying to sound like we think we ought to sound, or trying to sound like other people. And I've had so many conversations with like high-level musicians and about high-level musicians who've been through the same thing. Like I remember reading an interview with Tony Rice saying that he was trying to sound like Clarence White and couldn't, and ended up going, well, I can't be Clarence, so I'll be me. And ended up with this sound that everybody else wants to emulate, but other people like Brian Sutton or Chris Eldridge saying they tried to sound like Tony and couldn't, and then realised the only thing they could do was sound like them. And the amount of banjo players who said they tried to emulate Earl Scruggs and realised how pointless that was. And just the idea of learning what you are and how you, the sounds you want to make and the things you like that make you you. And I've struggled with this. You know, I'm not a particularly bluegrassy sounding improviser. I just don't. It's not my thing. I'm learning to do some of it, and I really want to do more of it. But I've got things that I do, and actually I quite like them. And that idea of just working out who Matt is as a guitar player and leaning into it. And there's something Julian Lage wrote a brilliant essay about sort of 12 thoughts on a guitar, 12 principles of guitar, or something. And one of them was about just recording loads of tiny improvisations. So every day for a week you record 10 1-minute improvisations. And you don't listen to them, you just do that. And then at the end of the week you listen to all 70 minutes of this thing and you look for patterns. Look for things that you naturally do that you like, that you can do more of. And the idea is not to eliminate them, the idea is to do more. And I just love this idea that, you know, and particularly as you listen to more music and your ear develops and you have a sense of what you like in music, even just through listening to music, you know what you like and what you don't. And so there is a version of your voice as a musician that corresponds to that is all the collection of things you've listened to and liked from other people, kind of colliding with who you are as a human and what your taste is and what your ear hears and all those sorts of things. So I just really like the idea of finding out who you are and doing it on purpose, because in music, in life, so many of us like look at the way we naturally are and think, oh, I should be more like that or more like this, but there's something incredibly powerful about understanding like just what the essence of you is and why that's good. And I've had to think about that a lot with the podcast because I have limited time to do this podcast. I have a full-time job that earns my money. The podcast doesn't do that and has to fit in around it because that's just the way of the world. But in many ways that's been really good, and it's made me focus on what I really want to do with it. And so I'm not worrying about, like building a business out of it. I'm not worried about like revenue, and I'm not worried about ultimate numbers of people listening to it. I'm just worried about whether I'm making content that I enjoy and offers something valuable, hopefully to the people listening and hopefully to the people I'm interviewing. And like somehow just by doing this for a couple of hours a week, I'm making a contribution to this music I love. And that's the thing that this podcast is supposed to be. And that's what it is. And so I'm doing it on purpose. And I just wanted to leave that thought with you. Like, what is it that is you as a musician? And how can you embrace that and lean into it and be more of it? And yeah, that's it. It's a simple idea, and that's why I call these food for thought. It's just something to leave with you, and you can wander around thinking about. Because I've been wandering around thinking about it, and it might not resonate with you. It might do. It might be something that pops up in your head in 6 months, and you go, "Oh yeah, that thing." But I'm just going to leave it with you. That is it for this episode. I have more interviews coming next week. I'm recording one tonight. I'm recording one tomorrow. And I'll be back with the usual stuff on Monday in the Bluegrass Briefing. That is it. Have a great week. I'll see you next time. Happy picking. Bluegrass Jam-Along is proud to be sponsored by Collings Guitars and Mandolins, making some of the finest guitars and mandolins in the world since the 1970s. Visit collingsguitars.com and find out why.